they say never do a selfie from below your chin because it makes you look fat. Well, I am fat, so big deal. I just want to tack this on, guys. First, let me say I'm not an expert on modifying kayaks, but I did stay at a Quality Inn last night. I just want to point out something. I've watched a lot of kayak modification videos over the last several years on YouTube, and I really enjoy those videos, really. I think it's kind of comical, though, how many videos the same guy will put out to show every little tiny thing he does with his kayak. Guys are just so proud of what they do with their kayaks. It just amazes me. I'm not going to show what I do or how I do it, but I will show the end result, that's all, for my kayak, just because I think you guys will be interested to know. But this is one thing I want to point out. When you watch the kayak modification videos, beware, because not all of the modifications that are shown on YouTube actually are successful. And one in particular that I'm pretty sure a big percentage of failures has happened on are the guys that are modifying their seat, because most poor man kayaks, we have to put a new seat on the kayak. The seat that comes with it is worthless. If you're going to pay, you know, $1,500 to $2,500 for a top of the line, you know, wilderness systems or Hobie, you know, one of the top of the line, you know, you'll have a $300 or $400 seat on that kayak, and you won't have to modify it. It'll have everything you need. But for us guys that are doing the poor man's kayak, getting a cheapie and pumping it up ourselves to make it decent so we can fish in it, a lot of the seat modifications are shown are failures. And just beware, you know, especially the seat mods where guys will take PVC pipe, cylindrical pipe sections, and mount that to the bottom of their seat on the four corners and make it match the four scupper holes, 2 in front and 2 in the back of their seat. And they'll mount that cylindrical PVC piping into the conical shaped scupper holes. Now there's a problem with that. Number one, the scupper holes in a kayak, especially the cheaper kayaks, serve two purposes at least. The first purpose is obviously water drainage. If you're in the ocean or if you're in a river with rapids and water is getting in the boat, then it'll drain out through the scupper holes. That's what their original purpose is. But the second purpose is structural support for that kayak. The cone comes in from the bottom and in from the top, and it meets in the middle. The two cones meet and are welded together, and that forms a column of support to keep the two halves of the kayak, or the two top and bottom surfaces, apart. It keeps them, and it makes the kayak keep its shape basically. And you have basically 6 scupper holes for a cheap kayak, and that means you have 6 structural supports for that kayak and no more. The expensive kayaks will have more structural support than just the scupper holes. So those are very well built kayaks, and this is, you know, why they get so expensive, you know. But the cheaper kayaks only have support, structural support, that helps the kayak keep its shape where the scupper holes are. Now when you take a conical shaped hole like that and you force a cylindrical PVC pipe into it, somewhere in the depth of that conical hole, the edge of that PVC cylinder is going to strike the sides of the cone. And then add your fat ace to the seat and put your 250-pound ace in that seat and spread your weight out among 4 cylinders that are pressed into a conical shaped hole, and guess what's going to happen? Just guess. Yeah. You're going to introduce into that kayak structural damage at the only points in the kayak that has a structural support. You're going to introduce stress and strain and basically make that column fail. You know, you're going to make the conical scupper hole crack or delaminate from top to bottom, and then once they delaminate, they move off of each other like this, and then there's no structural support. Or it just splits the plastic because the force of the cylinder inside that cone adds stress, and that stress with your weight on top of it will crack that kayak and ruin it. So here's an interesting thing. If you watch a lot of those mods where guys are doing that with their seats, you'll notice if you look at their channel and go look at all their video history, after they make that modification and they're all proud of themselves and think they're leading the world in how to modify and add a comfortable seat to their kayak, they think they're really showing you something. And there's 10 million of them doing it on YouTube. So how many of them do we need to show us, right? But you'll notice if you look at most of those channels, they'll never show that kayak again. They'll do it in that one video and be all proud of themselves, and after that video you won't see another one from them on their channel with that kayak involved. Why is that? Because they ruined it. They got 1 or 2 days of use out of that kayak and then it broke, cracked, destroyed it. And guess what? It gets even better than that. The same kind of guys on YouTube who ruined their kayaks because they introduced stress at the only structural support spots on that cheap poor man's kayak by shoving a cylinder into a cone-shaped hole and then putting their 250-pound ace in that seat and fishing in it. After 2 or 3 trips, they've ruined their kayak. Those same guys who will never show you that failure are the same kind of guys, and this is one of the problems with bass fishing on YouTube, are the same kind of guys that always show frog fishing videos, and every blow up, every hit they get is a catch. They get a hook up and land that fish. They never show their misses. They miss fish just like anybody does on top water. It's not the angler's fault most of the time when we miss a fish on a top water hit. The bass have at least 6 ways that they can take that bait. I've done the videos on this in the past. They can sip it, they can suck it. The suck is the best top water hit with the highest hookup percentage. They can blow up on it and create chaos, and they can hit it 3 other ways. But when they hit the top water lure, especially if it's a big blow up, that chaos that's created creates turbulence in the water, and half the time the bass, just their body motion through the water pushes the lure out of the way and they miss it. That's in open water. In muck and scum half the time we're moving our lures too quickly, and so the bass blows up behind the lure because he blows up where the frog was and misses it. Well, the truth is we all miss fish on top water, and especially the guys fishing hollow frogs. They miss more fish than anybody. Yeah, they're all proud of themselves for bending their hooks up. They're all proud of themselves for their little modifications. And they want to show the world that they're a superior fisherman. And when they fish their frogs, they only show success, 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 success. They never show their misses. And what does that do, guys? It creates a false impression. Aren't we getting sick of that in the world today? Everybody creating false impressions and making a mountain out of a molehill. It's disgusting. The false impression is that you can get 100% hookups on a hollow frog. Good luck. On your good days you might get 100%. That's when the fish are just taking it just right that day. But most days, you know, you're going to get a 50% hookup ratio with a hollow frog or worse, you know. But these guys don't show that. Same way with the kayak mod guys. They're so proud of themselves with their great genius solutions, you know, with their poor man's kayak. It's okay. I understand they're proud. I mean, you know, we all like to see, we like to achieve things, and if we can take a cheap thing and make it very serviceable, that's pretty cool. But the problem is they don't show the failures. And these seat modifications with the cylindrical PVC pipe and the conical scupper hole are a mistake. I highly advise against that type of a modification. There's other ways to add a seat to a kayak and support the kayak, support the seat, and not put any stress on the structural support, and in fact add more structural support in the process. I just am not a fan of the misconceptions that are created on YouTube so easily. Anyway, back to the story. Just want to point that out. Not all of the modifications on YouTube are smart. They may look smart, but they don't actually work. In the end, they damage the kayak because it's a cheap kayak. And it only has thin plastic, and it only has structural support where the scupper holes are. So basically I'm saying all that to say this: I will not be doing that type of seat modification on this kayak. I will be mounting the seat, the bottom of that seat plate, right to the kayak itself, and I'll be careful with the support about it, and careful not to introduce stress or strain on this cheap kayak. Well guys, I'm not going to be doing any of kayak modification type videos other than that first one where I showed, doing some spray painting. I'm not going to be one of those guys that seems to think that every little brilliant thing they do needs to be shown on YouTube. I'm just not going to do that. I mean, I think we all get it that most guys have enough gray matter to make some little, intuitive tweaks on their kayaks. And it's funny when you watch all those kayak modification videos how proud they are to show even the tiniest little tweak. Anyway, I'm not going to do that, but I will show you where I'm at now. I've bought 3 more cans of spray paint from Walmart for $3.98 a can, so basically $12 worth of spray paint. And I made like my own camo on the top half of the kayak. I didn't do the bottom because I already did that with the the chrome paint and left it lime and chrome. But the sides and the top are a little easier on the eyes for me. The only thing is, and one reason why I'm wanting to do this video, is just to show that this paint doesn't really stick. Every little, it's very easy to scrape off. And that's just the way it's going to be on a kayak. The material is polyethylene, which by nature has a low surface energy, and it doesn't let things stick very well, including paint. So if you're going to really want to put a coating on that's going to stay on, you'd have to do like a fine steel wool all over the surface, clean it, wipe it with alcohol, and then paint it, and then put a top coat of some kind of clear, flexible but durable lacquer on it, and that's just too much. I'm not going to do all that. So what I have done will get all scraped up, and I don't care. And the other thing is, it had a pretty decent, for a cheap kayak, a pretty sturdy backrest and a nice strap that was firmly mounted on these really nice clips here that rotate very nicely. And this is a made in USA Lifetime kayak. It's cheap. I got it for $2.24 at Walmart, and it's cheaper than that online, but I got it at my local Walmart. And it's really not a fancy design or anything. It's not an angler kayak. There's no rod holders, and I don't need them or anything. But it's got a nice swiveling clip here that the seat strap attaches to, and it provides a good sturdy backrest, which I think is impressive for a cheap kayak. It has a molded seat without any cushion, which I knew would be uncomfortable. So instead of that, I've removed the seat back, and the good thing is it just clips in and out. It's easy to take off. And I was at Walmart today, and I picked up this seat. It's small, very thin, so it's not going to raise my height up any. Well, maybe, just a little bit. Just a couple inches there, because I'm not going to leave any room under that seat. I'll put like a piece of closed cell foam under it just to pad it, because the flat bottom will not match the contour of that seat bottom right there perfectly. So I'll arrange some type of foam, you know, washer below the seat or something. And I've got ideas how I'm going to put that seat on. But it's a small seat and it'll be very comfortable. So that's what's going to go on. And really, I'm not going to do that much more to the kayak. That's going to be about it. But I just thought an update would be something you guys might enjoy. And the other thing I wanted to mention about this paint job is that while the paint is on the kayak, the good thing about it is, aside from looks, is that it adds a layer of UV protection. So that even out in the bright sun, you know, the kayak plastic's not going to start fading. As long as this paint is on here, it will block the sun. So that's another reason why I did it. Because my kayak is going to sit out in the sun most of the time, right out in the bright sun. It'll stay right here in the back of my truck almost all the time. So that's what's up. When I get this seat arranged on the kayak, and one other thing I will do is add one more paddle holder. It's got the bungee type paddle strap right there. I will use that to hold my fishing rods. I'll take like 2 rods with me, and that's it. And I'll put the tips up under the bungees up front and the butt section of the rods under this strap here. So to make up for that, I'll add another paddle strap to the other side. That's going to be it. I'm not adding any rod holders or any other gizmos. I'm not going to have a anchor trolley or any of that. It's just a poor man's fishing kayak. 10 feet, bare minimum for someone my size, over and out. It's a lot of fun though. Enjoying, you know, getting it together. So that's it for now, guys. Thanks for watching. God bless. Fish slow. And best wishes.